5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's the new Panic Room. It's the show other shows want to be, and the show that authors want to be on. The all-new Panic Room radio show is brought to you by hellboundbooks.com.
Well, good evening, listener. It's come round quick again, hasn't it? It is Thursday night, 9:30 Central, and it is episode, would you believe, 76 of I was going to say the all-new Panic Room, but it's not. It's same old, really, to be honest. We've been going 76 episodes now, and it is the same old, isn't it? But and speaking of same old, it wouldn't be the same without the old late booker. How are you this evening, my dear?
Speaking of same old, I loved your introduction.
I thought that was such a smooth segue. You know, it's It's you, isn't it? It's you. It's us again, people are not sick of this crap yet. It's just like, 76, that means we've done 75 episodes of this nonsense.
I'm getting excited. Like 100 though. That'll be exciting. 100, don't you think?
We need to make that the decent one. Make it a good one.
Yeah, make that the decent one. Okay.
Yeah, instead of the other 99 were a bit iffy, but 100's gonna be a knockout. Definitely. So all good stuff. So it's how have you been and whatnot?
I've been good. You know what? You know what I did today? I slept today.
I don't live with you. I have no idea.
I took 2 naps, I'm still kind of tired.
Did you actually manage to do anything other than that? Because you didn't get out of bed till 11. So that's great. That's a skill set right there. Is fitting in 2 naps between 11 a.m. and 9:35 p.m. That's great. I can't even fit in lunch.
I had the 2 naps out of the way by like 3:30. I did. I don't know how I managed it, but it was nice. Let's see, is that all I did? No, that's not all I did. I read a little bit today.
Steady on.
Okay, but that's
steady
all.
on.
That's all. I read and I slept.
Well, I'll tell you something. Obviously, I'm a little bit older than you are. At what age does a power nap become just a nap? You know what I mean? I remember in the 80s, with the yuppies and all that, power nap was the thing. I was going to have a power nap.
Yeah.
20 minutes. For me, a power nap's nodding off in Futurama. Tell you the truth, that's my power nap.
I can take a 20-minute nap and be good and be refreshed and everything. Now it's the boyfriend. I'm going to take a nap. 4 hours later, I hear from him, and I'm thinking that's not a nap. That's a sleep. That's not a nap. It's 4 hours.
Yeah, that's a good night's sleep for some people.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I don't even sleep 4 hours. During the night. So. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I don't. If I have a lunch, like something other than a banana and a tin of Monster, I'll nod off. Sometimes I just have a bowl of cereal. But if I have anything that's sort of carbohydrate heavy, and I do like my carbohydrates, people, it'll put me to sleep. And I'm just so now working day, I tend to sort of write, do writing, creative, sort of raw stuff of a morning, and then afternoon do, editing, business stuff, that sort of thing. Because, that my brain is more sort of active. But, if I sort of have a break and I'll, have a, something that's a bit carbohydrate-y, the next minute, like you say, but I learned, instead of fighting it, the best thing to do is just literally close, just have 10-15 minutes. And it's surprising how refreshing that is. It is. It does work.
I'm like a toddler, though. I'm going to fight it until, I just fall out pretty much. And I will. I'll be nodding off and my stupid Kindle will hit me in the face, and I'll still just keep trying as hard as I can.
Yeah, I'll close my eyes and I'll finish this chapter. I'm editing this chapter, or, proofreading or whatever. But your brain's going, no, I'm tired now, actually, bucko. And I tell you, I mean, speaking of tired and worn out things, I think I made a comment on Facebook. Kirk Douglas at the Golden Globes. What? Why? They wheeled the old boy out. He looked as confused as anything, bless him. He's like, didn't it? I mean, he's 101, bless him. He should be home with his slippers in front of the fire. Watching The Young and the Restless, perhaps. Or Spartacus, maybe, and he just looked like, he had no idea who Catherine Zeta-Jones was. It's like, she's attractive and she should put a vest on, he was thinking. And he was wondering you could tell he was like, when's the bingo coming on?
Oh, God.
He was just like, bless him, they wheel out the old people, he's Doris and she's 106, she just like, just let me die, she's in her home. She can't muster up enough strength to blow the bloody candles out on the cake they've made. She's like, and yet they're on about, we can extend human life to 200, and that's God. Great, isn't it? Yeah, that's 120 years in an old folks' home. Thanks a fucking lot. Great. Thanks a bunch.
That's our goal.
What they need to do is to extend it at the other end. So your childhood is like 80 years, and then you do your grown-up rubbish, you know, and then instead of prolonging life at the back end when your body's pretty much had enough, you know, but it depresses me. It really does, you know. They're just there, so I'm ready for my grave now. And they're, no, blow your candles out, Grandma. I don't, let me die. We bought you an iPad. What is that? I don't know what that is. It's newfangled wizardry. But, it's maybe just because I'm getting older and I'm a little bit sensitive. Hopefully, I'll get to 101 and they'll wheel me out so I can wonder who the hell Catherine Zeta-Jones is. You know?
You keep up more with current events, I think, than I do. I can't remember the last time I turned my TV on. I mean, I watch shows, but I watch like Netflix, and that's it. I never in news. Forget about it. It's depressing and it's
to be fair, I
nightmarish. No.
Goings on from online newspapers and online stuff. TV is mostly SpongeBob. You know, or cartoons, or I mean, it's funny. Funny enough, actually, I'm binge watching season 2 of Channel Zero. So I was thinking, series 1 was Candle Cove. This is No End House, and it is as creepy as hell. I mean, it's like Stranger Things, but like with the creepiness factor cranked up to 11. It is. Heartily recommend it, folks. I really do. It's good. It's good. And the first season was brilliant. I binge-watched Black Mirror season 4 over Christmas, which was great. So I'll tend to do that. You know, I'll binge-watch a whole bunch of stuff, you know, whole season. And I like to catch British sitcoms when and where I can because, you know, they're funny as opposed to American sitcoms, which are not funny.
Oh, they've gotten so bad. I mean, I used to really laugh at, like, Friends. I loved Friends. But some of that, like, okay, there's one now that I thought it had so much promise, and the one chick who is one of the main characters or whatever, I love her. I think she's adorable, but the show sucks. It's Two Broke Girls. I think that cat chick or whatever her name is, she is
incredibly badly written. It really, you can see the jokes coming a mile off, and when they do come, they're not funny. I mean, they're just really... I watched a couple of those.
I think the actresses themselves, the actors and stuff, I think they realize how bad it is, and they don't even try anymore. They just deliver the lines, and they're not even trying to act. Because I've seen that girl in other things before.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen that girl in other things before, and she was a good actress. So to see her acting so badly, it's
like,
a choice.
You know, Big Bang Theory. You know, it was good. The first 2 seasons were good. I'm sticking with it because I kind of like. It's a nice bit of nonsense, but it is. They run these things to death, you know, and it's not. You know, a lot of the fun premise is out of it. You've got Sheldon's in a relationship and getting married, and it's just wrong.
Don't tell me. I'm only on season 8, and I am watching it right now. I love that show. He may or may not be getting married, but I still watch it. I still enjoy it. Have they had sex?
Well, do you want me to spoil it? Yes, they have coitus. They have had coitus on several occasions. But they tend to do it birthdays and special occasions. It's just kind of funny. But I find that creepy because it is so childlike. It's almost like you know, she's sleeping with a 9-year-old, and it's just like. I'll tell you what is good though is Young Sheldon. Which is like the prequel. It's Sheldon as I think 10, 11-year-old, 9, 10-year-old, and that is really good. You know, they don't have a laugh track to it. It's not knockdown funny, but it's great. It is really. I think it's actually going to outshine the original. It's good. So another tip there. Another tip. I should be getting handouts and kickbacks from Fox, I think.
Yeah, you should.
So, hey, anywho, we have a bit of a special show tonight. We have sort of horror royalty joining us this evening. We have Stanley Wiater. Hopefully, I have pronounced his name correctly. 3 times Bram Stoker Award-winning author, creator of the Dark Dreamers series, in which he speaks to some of the absolute greats in horror. You know, I'm almost nervous actually. I want to cue him in, but I'm frightened because I'm just going to go all, you know what I mean? But I think let's bring Stanley. I hope he's going to be kind to us. Stanley, are you there, sir?
I'm there. I am here.
Yay.
Hello.
You are there.
Hello. We bow down before you, sir. We bow. What an absolute corker of a resume you have. How are you this evening?
I'm fine, and I greatly appreciate the compliments. I'll take them where I can get them.
I'm sure you've had more than one. So whereabouts are you based? Where are you calling us from?
In Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts. It's 10:45 our time here. And I took 2 power naps. I took 2 power naps as well. Yeah, to make sure I can make it to this time.
Awesome. I must say, I went down the Monster route, so I had a tin of Monster earlier. So and the banana.
Did you really?
I did, and the banana, which is good for energy and high in potassium. So, and it's probably the only fruit I'll eat, but other than strawberries, I don't apples. Can't be doing with oranges and whatnot, you know. So we could have a whole segment about, pardon the pun, whole segment about fruit. But let's not. Or not. Or not. So I don't know where to start, Stanley. I mean, the Dark Dreamer series, which went out in the UK and Canada, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who haven't you interviewed? I mean, some of the Clive Barker. I mean, I'm probably Clive's biggest fan. I mean, I've got to ask you, what is Clive like on a personal level?
Very nice. He's very kind and continuously surprised that he has such a following. You know, when we ask about his fans, he says, "Oh no, please don't call them my fans." He says, "Please call them my readers or my viewers." He says, "I don't want to be part of a fan of situation," which of course he is very deeply.
No, yeah. Yeah, he's. I think I've told this story before. I mean, I remember back in the sort of, I guess, late 80s when I picked up the Books of Blood series. I just bought all 6 books, read them start to finish, and it actually stopped me writing for about 10, 15 years, because I was just so blown away by the originality, the style, just everything. There's no way on God's planet I could even come close to this, you know. And so I literally just stopped me writing. I stopped writing horror. I actually went on to writing comedy, funnily enough. So it was only really in recent years I sort of plucked up the courage to write horror again. So yeah, thanks, Clive, if you're listening. But I mean, true inspiration. I mean, you know, I obviously, in that respect, inspired me to wait until I was mature enough to even be, you know, in the same genre as him.
Yeah, well, when Clive Barker burst on the scene with Books of Blood, you know, he hadn't published in the magazines or had it published in the small press. And when he came full blown with Books of Blood, the rumors had it that it was actually Ramsey Campbell writing under a pseudonym, because no one had such a explosive style or quirky style as Ramsey did, and people at first assumed Clive Barker. What a made up name! You know, no one's going to buy that name. It's actually Ramsey Campbell, and Ramsey loved it most of all. People thought that Clive Barker was an imaginary character.
Oh, that is fantastic. Yeah, it does sound like a made-up name, doesn't it?
It does. Clive Barker.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when King came up with Richard Bachman, you know, it's like a pretty, you know, bog-standard name, really, you know, I guess. But yeah, I mean, yes, obviously you interviewed Clive, and Yeah. So I'm in awe of you. I really am. So how did you get involved with the whole Dark Dreamers thing? Was that your concept, or somebody came to you with it?
Concept. That was my concept. I was an entertainment reporter for some Western Massachusetts newspapers, and whenever there was a chance to interview a horror author, I naturally went for it. And this was also just as Fangoria magazine was coming on the scene. I was first published in issue number 6, and was in the first 100 or so issues. But it was the idea that at that time, it was just when King and Barker and the whole scene was exploding, and people were being recognized for the great work. Richard Matheson, Harlan Ellison, and I looked around and I said, "Well, why isn't anybody reporting on these folks?" So I had an open field, and ultimately became what some people say was a big fish in a very small pond. Yeah.
I mean, like you said, he sort of exploded. I would say, so late 70s through the 80s. I grew up on James Herbert, obviously being from England. He was my first introduction to grown-up horror. And it was just mind-blowing stuff. It was so raw and visceral, and so different from obviously the sort of the young adult and kids horror that I'd sort of had until then. And I'd read Stoker, I'd read Frankie, a lot of John was a favorite, a lot of those classics. And Herbert just came out and just blew the whole thing wide open. I think at one point he was actually outsold Stephen King over in England. So he was that British Stephen King. Did you ever? Yeah. Did you ever?
I was fortunate to interview James. Never had the good fortune to meet him, but. I interviewed him over the phone and sent him a couple books to sign, and he was kind enough to sign them and send them back and said, "I hope you'll read these someday." Which, of course, I already had. He is like most authors. Once they make it, they're wondering, is anybody really reading my books, or they just want my autograph?
Yeah. Well, I hope one day I get to that point. People just... Maybe nice if they read the books, but just buying them is a good start, So, but again, it was. He used to pop up on British chat shows a lot. Every time I had a book out, he'd be on the chat show circuit. And again, he came across as a genuinely nice bloke. He started off in marketing. That's his background in advertising, and he just seemed such a nice guy. And it's funny how horror writers seem to be some of the nicest bunch of people you could ever meet. And I guess people outside,
it's surprising. Yeah.
People outside the genre assumes that we're all horrible, dark, nasty, psychopathic, child killers. But we're not. We're nice people.
Like, I talk to you all the time, James, and I think you're just, the greatest. And then I read you, and I'm like, oh, my God, I don't know if I'd want to be alone with you. Which is awful. Well, it's weird, but,
maybe we're nice, because we all the nastiness is written out of us. We get all that out. So, when you actually, when it's us, we're nice, because all the dark stuff's gone, it's all written down.
So we should fear these comedy writers is what we should do.
That's it.
There's no outlet.
When you read their backgrounds, you would say, I would never want to be a comedy writer because of the tragic and pathetic lifestyles, or I should say childhoods that they had, whereas the horror writers, none of them are seeing psychiatrists because all their fears and horrors and traumas are out on paper. Often
that's right.
In early age. So they're the most well-adjusted people I know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you just look at some of the comedy greats, and they're all tortured souls. I mean, literally to a man.
Yeah.
I think, and I've done comedy, and I've worked in comedy, and there is an element of, it's like, certainly when you do stand-up, it's, your instant gratification, and yet it can be instant rejection. When you write a book and it goes out there and people buy it, you don't get upset every time somebody doesn't buy a book. You stood on stage, you tell a gag that you've laboured over, this is the funniest thing ever, and nobody laughs, and there is nothing more soul-crushing than that. And it's just that instant boom, you get that feedback. It's same as sales, you work in a sales job, and you get that you have to be used to rejection. And we speak to authors who, they'll write one book and get a rejection slip and never write anything again. Because, I've got a rejection, instead of, you pick yourself up, you write another book, and just keep going, for goodness sake,
On the other hand, it could be decades before you get any personal satisfaction or professional satisfaction for being a writer. The horror writer Dennis Etchison once told me that that's one of the hardest things of being in this business of writing, a book or a story in 1980, and it takes 30 years before someone comes up to you at a convention and say, that story changed my life, or that story scared the hell out of me. And can you imagine waiting 30 years to have one say, I love that novel, or I love that short story that you wrote 30 years ago?
That's crazy. Yeah.
But I think if you look at that on the other side of the coin, it also means that piece of work that you wrote has been around
somebody for that
years.
long. Yeah.
Or it's there, it's out there. I mean, for me, a big part of it is getting it out on the paper, just getting it there, seeing it, and then knowing it's out there. And even if one person reads it, that's what it's about. It'd be nice if 2 million people bought the book and read it, but as you say, Stanley, it takes time. For every Clive Barker who bursts onto the scene, there's 100,000 others who are labouring away day in, day out, happy to get $25 short story payment, so. Yeah,
absolutely.
But I think if we all did it for the money, there'd be like 3 horror writers. I think just let's do something else. Let's go push trolleys around Kroger. You can really money doing that, And
it's one of the worst. You're going to get a paycheck. Yeah, it's one of the worst ways in the world to make a living, to be a writer, to be any kind of artist, but especially a writer.
People often say, why do you write? And I can only speak for me, but a lot of writers I speak to, we write because we have to.
Yeah.
It's not a choice. I've always wanted to write since I knew what books were, literally. All my friends at elementary school wanted to be firemen and policemen and doctors. I wanted to write books, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And it's because it's either that or all those stories are still in there. You know what I mean? And I say, Xtina's read some of my stuff. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. That should still be up there. It's good that it's out. Get them all out. But of course, you write one out, and there's another 3 or 4 just waiting in the wings to jump in, and you think, you never get to a point where I've now written everything that's in there. That's it. I'm done. All my stories are out now, because it's not. It's just it's like King. He doesn't need the money. He's not writing for the money. He's probably doing it, I would guess, because he has to. Otherwise, they're just all going to stack up in there. And it's the same reason McCartney, he's still writing tunes. He doesn't need the money. He's worth something like $800 million. He doesn't need the money. But they're still in there. I think they would drive him mad, I think, if he didn't write them down.
Yes.
Yep. There's definitely times when I have to write. I need to write, and even if nothing comes out, there will be this itch in me or something that you have to write. There's something, and it may take a couple of days for something to come out, but until it does, it plagues me. Like I can't do anything else, but I'm thinking of it all the time, and but I wonder if it's like that for everybody. I don't know.
I think those of us that that stick with it because we have to. Like I say, I can only speak for me, and I couldn't not. Literally, cause I'll get an idea and it'll form in my head, and it's so strong. Unless I even jot it down on my phone or write it on a scrap of paper, just to get it out there. Although at my age now, I'm more worried I'm going to forget it. And it's almost, and it took me a long time to realise that not everybody's brain works the same way. I said everybody was making stuff up. It wasn't until my wife said, I really admire what you do. And well, what? I just literally just make shit up. I lie for a living. That's what I do. And she, I can't. I don't do that. My brain, and it's like, right, well, that's a revelation. I didn't know that. There you go.
Comedians draw from real life, and it's usually horrible stuff that they make fun of. They say comedy is pain plus timing, whereas to me horror is time plus pain equals salvation. You get the pain out on paper or on film, and you're saved by it. You're not tortured by it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. It is like an exorcism. Once it's out there, and I find that even then, you go back to the because when you go back to story, you have to rewrite and to edit and all the rest of it. It's harmless then because it's out. You're on the screen or you're on the paper. You're not in my head now. And whilst I'm still developing it, but that raw idea, that embryo of an idea, is not torturing my brain cells anymore. But then again, like I say, in the gap that left, there's another one jumps in and as I go. So, and the worst thing I find when I'm writing is I'm writing one thing, my brain's thinking about the next thing, and I can sometimes struggle to focus because I'm thinking about the next. I'm going to have to think, no, I need to fit. Otherwise, all I would have is a whole selection of half-finished novels and half-finished short stories because I've got halfway through and I moved on to the next one because the idea's there. I would never have finished. Sometimes it's a struggle to finish that second half, I find. Those poor tortured souls.
We have a sound clip, don't we, from Dark Dreamers, James? I was
yes, we do. Yes, we do. Stanley sent that along. And would you like to introduce it for us, Stanley?
Who is it?
Yeah. I picked it out, so I don't think he can.
Oh, sorry, I thought Stanley had sent it. I believe it's the Wes Craven interview.
At least some of it, yeah.
So I've introduced. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Wes Craven interview, Stanley?
Well, I went to his home out in California, out in Beverly Hills, and so cool. I developed a very nice relationship with Wes. And again, like most people in the horror business, he was incredibly kind and incredibly generous with his time, and always a bit confused as to why people paid attention to him beyond his movies. And the one thing I'll mention about his house is that he made a point of mentioning it used to be Steve McQueen's house. So it was up in the hills of Beverly Hills, and it had glass and to look out to the swimming pool, and the swimming pool was on a cliff, and you had a view of the valley beyond. So that's one of the things I remember was that I was an enormous fan of Steve McQueen. So to be sitting in Wes Craven's living room interviewing him for the show, and at the same time trying to soak up the vibes of the ghost of Steve McQueen, perhaps.
Wow,
that is so. Wow, that is just. Yeah, that is astounding. Because it's funny you think. I mean, to them, I bought Steve McQueen house, or I'm living in Marilyn Monroe's apartment or whatever. To them, that's just their life. To us, it's like these people are gods. Actually, interviewing Wes Craven in Steve McQueen's old house is just, you couldn't make that up, really, could you?
Right.
That is just amazing. So, well, look, okay, we're gonna play the clip from Dark Dreamers. It's about 6 minutes, so it gives Xtina time to go and crack open another bottle of wine. So here we go.
Are you a dark dreamer? It is said that to best enjoy the light, you must first explore the heart and soul of the darkness. We are the artists who create in the shadows, whose dreams are designed to become your reality. I'm Stanley Wiater. Welcome to my world of the dark fantastic. Welcome to the world of dark dreamers. Are you a dark dreamer? Wes Craven undoubtedly is. The writer and director of some of the most frightening films ever made, Wes Craven is internationally recognized as one of the greatest dark dreamers of our time. Beginning in 1972 with the shocker Last House on the Left, which was produced by his colleague, Sean Cunningham, Craven has since gone on to direct a long string of both popular and critically acclaimed motion pictures. Among his best known is a series that began in 1984 with A Nightmare on Elm Street. It became a pop culture phenomenon and spawned no less than 6 sequels and a television series. If that weren't enough, for the Christmas holiday season of 1996, Craven treated us to Scream. This also became a smash hit and generated 2 successful sequels. Wes recently invited us to his office in Los Angeles, where we discussed the life and career of one of our most accomplished dark dreamers. Do you think part of the respect that the genre now has is because people are finally realizing that fact that there is that need for horror entertainment, as David J. Scal, the critic, calls it, as a good part of our lives?
I don't know. You know, frankly, I have not felt that yet. I think I've felt a respect that they are economically very viable, and that they can be sold to a broader audience. But all you need to look at is like the opening of Scream being shown in Congress as an example of how despicable and irresponsible films are, to realize that they're not out of the woods at all insofar as public opinion goes. Certainly not the opinion of policymakers. John McCain hates what I do. I'm sure he thinks it's un-American. And I've been being called that. Somebody called Last House on the most subversive film he'd ever seen, you know, and was clearly anti-American. So I don't know. And you know, Columbine, the first thing they hit was horror films. You know, it's like whatever opportunity they can to get a suggestion that these films are truly detrimental and undermining to the American way of life, they will take it and try to squelch them. And right now is not a good time for making horror films. Dimension Films has swung around to making children's films or remakes of classics, you know. So they are always live rounds, you know, and I think a lot of people are still profoundly uncomfortable with them and will readily say that they are irresponsible and that films are for entertainment, and that means giving people pleasant feelings, or it seems to be the implication is take them away from reality, take them away from thinking about what's unpleasant, and make them feel good about life, whatever. And there are times when, believe me, lately I've sat down with a silly film, you know. But that makes perfect sense to me. If the reality that I do films about is clear and present in reality, then you don't need to make a film about it. It's when people are like going along like those things don't exist is when those films are doing their function.
And we had the recent horrible tragedy in New York, and one of the reactions that the film and television industry had was to immediately put aside or put on the shelf films that might remind the audience of either the World Trade Center or terrorism in general. Do you think this is the right thing to do or an improper thing to do in terms of trying to, like, well, we have terrorism in real life, we better not talk about it in fiction for a while?
It's a delicate matter. You know, I think I've often referred to horror films as an inoculation against true horror. If a patient has a disease you know, they're in the middle of a raging fever and fighting for your life. You're not going to inoculate them with more of the disease, you know. So I can understand that. I don't think it should be done officially. I think unofficially it will be done. People probably aren't going to see Towering Inferno right now, you know, at the video store. But if they need to in some way, if they need to somehow, for whatever mysterious psychological reasons, need to watch it in a way that is resolved rather than so open-endedly, confusingly, bafflingly, horribly unsolvable as it feels right now, they should be able to do that, you know. But I understand the impulse. It was so uncanny, I think, to everybody, including filmmakers, how close it was, in a way, to the cinematic visions of the last 10 years. And I got to tell you, beyond making money in the film business, beyond all that stuff, there are perceptions that people who make films and write scripts have about potentials that wake you up in the middle of the night, and you make a script about that. And I swear to God, there is a part of you that says, I hope they see this and figure out how to make that impossible, you know. Ironically, they didn't. I mean, my novel, Found Society, ends with some guy crashing an airplane into the project in order to bring it to an end. I mean, why the hell, some general said, you know, when asked, why didn't you have some system of protection of protecting the Pentagon? He says, well, it never occurred to us somebody would fly a plane into it. Well, duh! You know? I mean, it's not like poor lowly little horror films haven't suggested a lot of these things. So, you know, my old phrase of making movies that are scenarios for the apocalypse or boot camp for the psyche, I mean, that was my vision, that was my hunch, and I wish I had been wrong, but I wasn't.
Wow, yeah, that was intense stuff. That was intense stuff. So, yeah, I think a lot of sort of issues brought up there. I mean, was Wes very sort of introspective in that respect?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he was, you know, he had the mind of a college professor or a very well-read man, very intelligent, and of course, a lot of people assume that people who make horror movies are just, you know, money-grubbing hacks and have no artistic intent in what they're doing, or don't have an intellectual mind knowing what they're doing when they make a horror film.
Mm.
Yeah, I think probably because of some of the issues that certainly Wes raised there, you know, people in the horror industry probably have to be more philosophical and more introspective. You know, we probably analyse our work more than I think any genre. Yeah. You know, it's fun. Yeah, it's funny. You look at some of the mindless action movies that are just they churn out, and so, you know, people getting blown up and all the rest of it, and yet nobody points the finger at them. I mean, there was a famous case in England from 20 odd years ago now, where two young boys, aged I think 10, 11, kidnapped a 2-year-old toddler. Took him away from a shopping centre, tortured and killed him. Immediately they pointed, because one of the boys had seen Child's Play, they pointed to that. Child's Play was pulled off the shelves in England for a good number of years because of that one incident. Wow. And then somebody said, well, you know, okay, fair, but even if they hadn't seen, these boys would have done this anyway, because that, you know, no matter what they saw, no matter how, you know, it's not the film that's made them do this, it's the fact that's their mindset that made them gravitate towards the film, because they actually did what they did to the little boy, you know, replicated some of the stuff that they've seen on the film. So, but I get you know, you have to. I guess we have to be well-read and, you know, more analytical with what we write and what we film, because we need to be able to defend ourselves, I think. Exactly.
I was just going to say that you have to be able to mount a good defense instead of people accept comedies at face value, action movies at face value, just about any genre they'll accept at face value. But oh my God, you made a horror movie, you're destroying society from within.
Yes. Yes. Well, those subversives that we are.
Yes.
We are going to need to take a quick break here. And James has to take a wee, of course, and I think I need more wine again.
Yeah, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Actually, I do. Always do this time of night. But
so don't go anywhere, okay, Stanley?
All right, dear. I'll be right here.
Okay, and I guess I have commercials this week, right? I'm all excited and tongue-tied, and you're going to make me do commercials and.
Yeah, you need to do commercials, and then we're going to go to a break.
Okay, here we go. The Panic Room Radio Show is sponsored by Hellbound Books, purveyors of all manner of dark fiction. You can find the publisher along with links to all their available works across platforms at hellboundbookspublishing.com. Hellbound Books is proud to be the first in the indie publishing business with a very own app on both Google Play and the App Store. In the mood for something steamy to read, check out new erotica author Jennifer Lynn's website at jenniferlynnerotica.com. You can find James at his website, www.jameslongmore.com, and Xtina has an author page found on the Hellbound website. Don't forget to follow the Panic Room Radio Show on social media. Our Facebook page, Unofficial The Panic Room Radio Show, Twitter at Panic Room Radio, our YouTube channel, The New Panic Room Radio Show, and come visit our website at www.panicroomradio.com.
Awesome, thank you so much. And now, as previously announced, it's break time.
Welcome back to part 2.
That was Teenage Rampage from The Suite. I picked out 70s music this week. This is all music from my childhood. That took me right back. I mean, the first tune was Ballpark Incident by Wizard, Roy Wood and Wizard. Roy Wood, who was one of the co-founders of the Electric Light Orchestra, who we played the week before. So there you go. It's all linked. All clever stuff, isn't it?
You do great.
Hey,
you do. Yeah.
I'm that bloody old. I know that much music. It's hopefully, if I can get it, hopefully a really special treat for next week. But I'm not going to spoil it. Speaking of special treats.
Oh hey! Looks like it's time to review something. Oh no!
It's Becky the reviewer. How are you, Mom?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine too, yo.
She's fine. Now, how come she gets
fine.
She gets special treats, and I get things like my alcoholic friend, and just I'm not talking to you.
Yes, sir. I don't forget who presses the buttons here. So Becky the reviewer, what have you got to review for us this evening?
Well, it's a book that is published by Hellbound, and it's written by Donna Maria McCarthy, and it's called Biddy Trot. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah. And what a fine book.
Yes, it really, really is really good. It's a really dark gothic tale. It's set in England.
Yay!
I was waiting. I knew that was coming.
I should put the national anthem on and stand up, and salute the Queen and whatnot. But, yeah,
I'm gonna see it.
The town where the story takes place is small, but there was a young girl accused of starting a fire, and they hunted her down and tortured her and murdered her. And the townsfolk were all part of it, and it didn't seem to bother them. And then you have a guy named Abner who enters this town, and he sees all these things going on and some really, really unspeakable things. And he decides he can't leave, that he has to stay and write down all the things he sees. It's a really twisted tale. It is told absolutely brilliantly. I mean, she can really write a good story. Her characters are so full, and the imagery that she makes you see when you read all this is just phenomenal. I really, really, really was impressed. I really liked it.
I think that one of the things I liked about it as well, because Donna, obviously she's a Brit, and we Brits rule, obviously. She's written it in ye olde Englandy style, but it is. Yes. It's not. I read Geoffrey Chaucer many. I was forced to read it, and what a pile of crap that was, to be honest. Indecipherable. Even Shakespeare, with all this forsooth and that, nobody talks like that. Shakespeare. Will move on. Modernise it a bit. They've even modernized. They've got modern versions of the Bible. So Shakespeare needs to. Anyway, but she's captured, the tone of ye olde England. Right there, in the rat-infested streets and the open sewers and the straw-strewn roads. It's great. And I'm not going to spoil the story, but it's a great, creepy little story that just gets in your head and festers there. Fester. What a great word, fester.
And I really
I'm going to say that every week. I was my word of the week.
Well, I remember when we had Andrew. Oh my gosh. What was his last name? Oh my gosh, I feel awful.
McKay.
Andrew McKay, another Brit, yeah?
No, the rot. It's all rot. That guy. What was his name? It's all Andy. Andy? Was it Andy? Andy Peloquin. Yes, it's all rot.
Andy Peloquin, yes.
That was my phrase for like a good week or two. It's all rot.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Becky, how many Becky stars are you giving Biddy Trot?
Becky Star.
I would give it 9.5.
God, Becky Star. This is going to be a thing.
Woo-hoo. 9.5. Awesome.
There'll be merchandise. You mark my words. There'll be Panic Room merchandise. I earned 5 Becky Stars. It'll say it'll be great. So.
She needs to review Dark Musings now. If we, giving out stars like that, I want like 12 stars. Can I get 12 stars?
Yeah, but you can't. No, you can't pre-book it. You can't pre-book the number of stars. Seriously. So, anyway, Becky, thank you so much for joining us and lighting up our little, otherwise dull day. It's always look forward to you coming and being a little happy little soul for us, which is brilliant. And thank you for the review. We shall look forward to seeing you. She's fine, y'all, and we will look forward to speaking to you next week.
Thank you, Becky.
Okay, Becky. Bye. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
There we go. There it is. Love it. Bye. Oh, she's always happy. She's always happy. I love it. Anywho, we need to bring Stanley back. Stanley, are you still there, sir?
Yes, sir. Right here.
Hello. Thank you for bearing with us. we have to do this stuff, So you know the drill. I have to ask. You're sort of the guy that's brought together a lot of my, big loves of the industry. The Twilight Zone scripts. Tell me more about those.
Yes, this was an idea of mine that I had that everyone said that Richard Matheson, and I've had the pleasure of editing several of his short story collections as well as the Twilight Zone scripts into 2 volumes. But everyone said back in the day that next to Rod Serling, the best and most frightening scripts on that show were written by Richard Matheson. And I said to him on an occasion, wouldn't it be great to have those published? And he said, no one ever thought about it. No one's ever approached me. And at that time, I was working with Cemetery Dance on a book called The Stephen King Universe. And I said to Richard Chismer, our Cemetery Dance, wouldn't we be great if we could do this? And Richard said, I'm all for it. All you have to do is take the original script formatting. He says, I don't want it to be published as, not kind of a short story font, but, script font. It's got to be looked like you actually reproduce my actual scripts. So we went along with that, and I asked him, I said, do you think I could ask you the origin of every story? Since there's only 14 of them, that shouldn't be too much of a task for you. And he agreed to that. I was shocked, but he agreed to that. So I was able to do a 2-volume collection in paperback, 1 volume in hardcover of all his scripts, with me interviewing him to get the genesis of each and every of the 14 scripts. And it's still in print, and I'm very proud to have been part of it. And Richard thanked me in the beginning of the book for being the person who came up with the idea to have this done. And now there's the Twilight Zone scripts of Charles Beaumont, the Twilight Zone script of Earl Hamner is out there, the Twilight Zone scripts of George Clayton Johnson. So everybody who wrote more than 1 or 2 scripts has now gotten onto that, and I'll call it a bandwagon, for lack of a better term, of publishing their Twilight Zone scripts. So I was very proud to kick off that bandwagon.
Yeah.
Wow, that is. Again, probably a bit of a cliche, but I think everybody in the genre loves the Twilight Zone. Funnily enough, actually, I spent this. How sad I am! I spent my New Year's Eve watching old Twilight Zone episodes, and they are awesome. They still stand up. They are. I would say, I'm going to stick my neck out here. They are probably better written than 90% of the stuff that's churned out today. They are such tight, beautifully written stories, great dialogue, great characters. They do the job. They creep you out. They stick in your head. Obviously shot on an incredibly tiny budget, but by Christ, they are effective. They are just some of the best stories, most unique stories around.
Every time there's a history of the greatest television series, The Twilight Zone always comes up number one as the best anthology. Not science fiction, not horror, but the best anthology series in the history of television.
Yeah, I would agree. I think because they date back sort of the late 50s. They were probably the precursor for everything else. In fact, I remember they sort of revamped it in the 80s, and some big name directors shot some episodes, and I saw some of those. Again, I watched the first season. So I just got the first season. I'm going to watch that, and then I watched some of the 80s, and they were not a patch. Obviously, the effects were there, and obviously a bigger budget, but they were just they just seemed soulless to me. I think the early black and white ones were just so, and I think as a writer, I think that's probably what I appreciate more. Was the quality of the writing was just... but like you say, the names you've just reeled off, Stanley, there's no wonder the writing was so damn good.
Well, believe it or not, they're bringing it back again. I'm not sure if it's Netflix or Showtime, but one of the premium cable organizations has just greenlit. It was reported in the Hollywood Reporter just a few weeks ago, a new revival of The Twilight Zone.
Oh, wow.
So again, keep bringing it back, rightly or wrongly.
I think after what they did in the 80s with it, I'd be very sceptical. Hopefully, but then again, with the resurgence of the Black Mirror, which I guess is a modern day version, which again is fantastic. I think every one of those episodes was excellent. Obviously, Stranger Things, and there seems to be that interest in the shorter episodes, the creepy, the supernatural, that sort of thing. So it may be
Horror Story.
Yes,
American Horror Story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great writing in the horror genre, especially on episodic television or anthologies on television, because of the streaming services and the premium cable.
Oh yeah, well that's it. Like you say, when you've got the likes of Netflix and Hulu and Amazon are paying now for original material, and like you say, some of the best stuff that's coming out is on the streaming services. Whether they've got more money or they seem to have more freedom. To just the directors, the writers have a lot more scope to do what they want, and they can be nearer the knuckle, and they're not bothered about upsetting sensitivities. As I say, I'm watching the second series of Channel Zero, and it is it's beyond creepy. It's disturbing. It's out and out disturbing, but in a good way. It's not throwaway horror, that you watch it and you've forgotten it the next day. It stays with you, and I think that's what a good horror story should be. It should stick in your head pretty much forever.
Yeah.
We need an Xtina corner where I just tell you about some blonde moment that I've had during the show. We had one last week, and I remember how funny that was. And my blonde moment for this week, I just got it. Okay, when you said that Channel Zero earlier, I thought you were telling me what channel this show was on, and I kept waiting to hear what the name of the show was, and you didn't tell me. So I was like, I don't know what Channel Zero is. Like, what channel is that? I remember the old TVs where you would have it, the black and white ones, but I was pretty sure you didn't have one of those.
I can just see you now pressing the zero button on your remote.
Yes, where is this channel? Yeah, exactly.
Although I think on my TV, Channel Zero is actually the pay-per-view, so there you go. It would work.
So there was
a strange woman. You really are.
I should probably not share these with everybody, but I started giggling, and I'm like, well, it's only fair that I let everybody in on the secret while I'm giggling. I just got that.
You just say happily in your own little world. Okay, I think, add a little bit of levity. I couldn't let the evening go by, Stanley, without asking you about the official Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles treasury. I mean, I'm a fan myself, I must confess. How did that come about?
Oh, that's not too bizarre a story. I actually went to college back in the 70s, which that does age me, but with Peter Laird, one of the two co-creators of Ninja Turtles. And at the time when he graduated, he found work by being self-employed. He owned a used bookstore in the basement of a building where he would go out on his bicycle. He didn't have enough money to own a car. He would go out on a bicycle and go to other used bookstores in Western Mass, and buy books for 10 or 15 cents a piece, and then go back to his little bookshop, which is actually used to be a shoe repair shop, a little nook in the corner of a basement of the building, and sell them for a quarter or 50 cents. And he was doing that, and in the meantime, doing his sketches and trying to sell his sketches. And at that point, he really couldn't give them away until he met someone on a free bus service for the 5 colleges named Kevin Eastman, and they hit it off, and they were both struggling artists. And at one point, they sat there and they were just doing sketches, and Peter Laird came up with or Kevin Eastman, I forget now which it was, but came up with a fighting Ninja Turtle, and Kevin Eastman said, "That's the Ninja Turtle," when Peter inquired, and Kevin said, "No, that's not a Ninja Turtle, that's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle," because they were spoofing the trends at the time in the late 80s of comic books. So being a very close friend of Peter Laird's, when it came time to put the history of together back in the early 90s, they were kind enough to give me carte blanche to their archives, and I put together the treasury, and that book is still in print to this day as an ebook.
That is awesome.
And of course, that became probably one of the most successful, if not the most successful, independent comic line in history because of the merchandising.
Yes.
They agreed to have merchandising done, and met with an agent, and on a napkin, just like you hear in the movies, the agent said, for every dollar made, we'll share it, and we'll each get a third of every dollar. So since at that time they owned the Turtles 100%, every item, and there ended up being hundreds and hundreds of different items with the Ninja Turtle logo on it. Peter and Kevin became multimillionaires because of it.
Fantastic, and of course, it had a resurgence of recent years. And I saw the first movie, and I loved it. It was great.
I don't remember which one it was, but there was one of the movies in like the 80s, I think it was, that this is so dorky. I had the soundtrack to it. I did. I loved all the songs on there. That's dorky, isn't it?
No, if it was the 80s, it would have been a slamming soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
It would have been fantastic. Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Yeah, but we went to see my daughter wanted to see the more recent one. We haven't seen the second one yet, and it was great. It was just, it was very self-referential. Say again.
The big rat dude kind of freaked me out. He, I don't know. He kind of. Yeah, Splinter. He was just creepy looking to me. I mean, he was a cool character and everything, but in one of the movies I remember seeing it again. It was back in the 80s. He just creeped me out. He did. Something about a giant rat is just a little creepy to me, I guess.
Well, it's giant rats, isn't it? Mm.
Yeah. I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
No.
I was wondering, Stanley, with all the people and the amazing, people that you've interviewed, do you have? Is there anyone that's I'm sure a lot of them do, but do you have a favorite? Anyone that like really sticks out that you're like, man, that was amazing.
Well, I always tell people if I only could pick one interview for them to go to get a taste of what I try to do it's the Harlan Ellison interview.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm so brilliant at interviewing Harlan Ellison. It's just that Harlan Ellison is Harlan Ellison. And it was a situation where he's given, probably hundreds of interviews in the course of his lifetime. But when I interviewed him, we had already been friends for several years. So when I went to his home and we sat in his kitchen and had a conversation, it was like the cameras weren't there and we had a real conversation. And of course that meant I basically, sat there and kept my mouth shut and let Harlan Ellison talk for a half hour.
Now that's pretty cool. Yeah. Huh.
So I have to ask, and it's probably unfair of me to ask you. You don't have to answer. Who's your least favourite?
He's not going to answer that.
Their names started to blocked out. It was nobody who was, mean to me or cruel to me. Years ago, I interviewed William Shatner very early in my career, and he had promised me an interview. This is pre-original Star Trek, and post-original Star Trek and pre-Star Trek the movies, and he was doing an episode of Kung Fu. If you remember that show with David.
I do.
Oh,
yeah.
God, I do.
Yeah.
My dad used to love that. Oh,
yeah. There's another story of me getting stoned with David Carradine, but that's for another time. But with William Shatner promising me an interview when he was guest starring on the show, and then he disappeared, and I found him in his makeup cabin, and of course he was being applied with like an hour's worth of makeup with false hair pieces and all this. So he couldn't move. So he was so obviously disappointed in me being there, but what could he do? Because he had already made that promise that I could interview. But it was so obvious that every word I got out of him was had to be pulled with pliers. So
I've heard that Shatner can be difficult, but I'm a big fan. It's funny if he was in some of the early Twilight Zones as well. I think that's probably where he started off.
The Richard Matheson's. Yeah, he was in Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. He was brilliant in that, and also the Nick of Time with him and his wife in a little diner and that little fortune-telling machine. Well, that was seemed to be really telling the future. But it was just a situation where you want to interview someone who's looking forward to it and wants to join in the conversation rather than someone said, "Who's this punk? I'm tied in a chair and I've got to answer his questions."
Yeah.
So, but he's still a great guy, and I can't begrudge him, all his success.
No.
I mean, he's in his 80s and he's still at it. He's still on TV.
He's been around. I mean, it's funny. We watched. I got hooked on Boston Legal when that was on, and he was just fantastic in that. He was pretty much playing William Shatner, which is, I think, pretty much all he's ever done. But he was just a great eccentric character in that, and him and what was the guy that played the other guy? My brain's fried tonight. The other guy in Boston Legal.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Oh, you know what I mean. I'm going to have to Google it because I think it's been a long day. The two of them as a double act were just brilliant. There was not James. Was it James Spader?
Might have been. It might have been James.
Could have been.
Rings a distant bell. Might have been James Spader.
Yeah. But anyway, whoever that guy was, I mean, it's a great show, But Shatner's, I've heard, quite a few reports that he can be awkward, but bless him. I mean, he must be a million years old by now. There's only him and George Takei left, I think, out of the original crew. Oh, Nichelle Nichols is still going.
And
she's still going.
and the actor who played the Russian.
Mr. Sulu.
Yeah, Mr. Sulu is still with us.
Which is ironic because the guy who played Mr. Sulu in the new films isn't.
Right. There's an irony there.
Yeah.
But Ned Nichelle Nichols turned up on Deadpool, wasn't it? She had a cameo in that, which is kind of groovy.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what Stanley's favorite horror franchise is. Like, Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th, Halloween. What's your favorite?
It's actually the Alien franchise. Of all the ones, there was something about that film when it came out in 1979. I saw it on the opening weekend. This is pre-internet, pre-everything else, where everybody knew everything that was going. It opened cold. No one knew anything about it except for a couple of teaser trailers. And I walked in with some members of my family, and as we were watching it, when the chestburster scene came on, a bunch of people got up and headed for the exit, and I said, I'm going to love this movie. Because people literally got up and left the theater when that scene appeared. And over the years, I think it stood well the test of time. Not that everyone is a great film, but I think as a franchise, they've each have attempted to be unique in their own terms. I think it's time that they ended. I hope maybe that Ridley Scott gets his desire and does one final film to tie it all up. But after that, please leave it alone. It's the Alien Covenant was like kind of shaky to go into. Prometheus was kind of shaky to sit through, and I'm just hoping they do one, wrap it up, and put a bow on it from there.
No, I would agree. I mean, they're sort of, I mean, the first one was just so. It's funny. I mean, because it opened here first, and back in England, I mean, I'd be, what was I, 16, 17, and we were getting all these reports about people walking out, people fainting, people throwing up, and of course, we got to see this movie, and I think we saw it pretty much the opening weekend over in England. I mean, it was an 18, but we still managed to get in, and it was just mind blowing. It was, even now, I mean, it's one of those movies, if I'm flicking through the cable channels and Alien's on, I'll watch it, I must have seen it dozens of times, and it still stands up. Now even you look at the the technology, the computer technology, it still stands up, it still works, and it's just phenomenal. You're still there, you're gripping the edge of your seat when it's stalking Ripley through the corridors of the spaceship as the self-destruct alarm's going off, and it is just so incredibly well done.
I like the second one. I like Aliens, I think, better than the first one. I
think Aliens was more of an action movie. I mean, they let Cameron loose with it, and it was an action movie. But it was incredibly well done. It's probably, in some respect, maybe a lot of people said it was better than the original. But I think for me, the original, because it was tight, it was small cast, it was more claustrophobic because they were just stuck on that ship. It was just literally the alien stalking them, and that was the plot, and it worked so incredibly well. And the tension was it was palpable. It was I don't think there's been anything like it, anything close to it since, really.
And really, the last two films, as much as I personally enjoyed them, I don't think they add anything to. Let's say the last two films, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, didn't exist. Would we really be missing them if they didn't exist as part of the franchise? I don't think so.
I would agree, Stan. I mean, for me, they're going into the whole backstory, all the explanation. For me, I mean, when Alien was Alien, it was just, I like the twist that it was all sort of preordained, but the fact that they, picked up an alien being on a planet and it killed them without all this backstory of engineering and that, like you say, you're right. You don't need that. it was just a nice, pure and simple horror film. They did this, and it's the same as the films. A bunch of kids conjure up a demon, a devil, or Bloody Mary, or whoever, and it's exactly the same. We've done something. We've created this monster, and it's killing us. But it was so beautifully done, and I defy anybody, even Ridley Scott. I don't think could top it.
It was good. Yeah. Did you see Leviathan? I seem to remember that back in, I don't know, maybe late 80s, early 90s. Anybody remember that movie, Leviathan? It always gave me an alien feel. No? Okay, never mind.
No.
I didn't think it was that good. I'll say that. I didn't think it was.
Was that with the monster on the ship?
Yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis? I think Jamie Lee Curtis was a female lead in that.
I think so. Yeah, it definitely was on a ship. It was definitely a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that good, but it did give me an alien kind of feel to it. But
yeah, it definitely came out post, the original Alien, which was 1979. There were a lot of rip-offs of Alien. I think Leviathan was basically Alien on a ship.
Yeah.
The alien monster on a ship.
Yeah.
Even with Jamie Lee Curtis to play the Ripley role.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. It spawned a whole batch of strong female, which was great. That was in itself was an inspired move to have Ripley, instead of being the archetypal horror film screaming terrified woman, being the one who steps up and deals with it. I enjoyed that. That was good. But I think again, from a writing point of view, the writing was so beautifully tight. There wasn't one wasted word, not one wasted scene. It was just all fit. So it was just one of those perfect storms, perfect film where everything worked. I think for me, probably the only one that probably comes close, for me, in perfectness would be The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, the original, which was 81, I believe, not long after
82.
Sorry, I feel foolish.
Don't argue with me, Jim.
Right?
I wouldn't dream of it. No. If you said it was 8, yeah. But again, it was because it was well written. It was very tight. It was very claustrophobic. They had the creature. The effects were good, and it worked. There wasn't even any women in there. It threw away the horror trope of your large-breasted women getting stabbed to death by somebody. You threw all that out the window, and it worked for it. It's just somebody, Carpenter, daring to be different.
Yes. Well, I know we're coming close to the end of our time together. Yes.
Yeah,
we are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I know.
No, you don't.
More time.
You don't want to have me plug my own books and DVDs, but if you twist my arm, I will, of course, say all my books, DVDs are available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. A lot of basically any place you can buy a DVD, you can get Dark Dreamers, either as the best of Dark Dreamers, which is 10 episodes, or the complete 2-season series, Dark Dreamers, which is 4 DVDs, and that's available. As well as my books are available as ebooks. So I'm still out there for anybody who just says, God, I got to have more Stanley Wiater.
Oh, fantastic! And you have a website as well, Stanley?
Yes, Stanley-Wiater.com. Plus, I have a Facebook page called Dark Dreamers Group, which is where anybody can go to and promote and plug themselves or their products, as I've just shamelessly done.
Awesome.
No, hey, no, not shamelessly at all. That's what we're here for.
Definitely. And I have some of your links put up on our Facebook page, along with a link to the Dark Dreamers. The best of, I think, is what I put up there. But so if anybody wants to stalk Stanley, they can go there and do that. And No, definitely. We normally get to that part. We do. He was doing our job for us. I don't even know why we're here, James. This should be Stanley's show.
We could. I'm happy with that. We could have the night off. That'd be great. So yeah.
Yeah. That was awesome. It was. There's so many times that we get to the part of the show where I say, okay, now where can we find you online, and do you want to, tell us where your book can be found? And then they kind of go, and it takes them a while to tell us. So I like that.
Stanley's been on the other side of the coin, so he knows the score. He knows the score. I've got to get my plug in before the end of the show. I
don't want you guys to say, well, Stan, it was great talking to you, but I'm afraid we're out of time. We'll promote your work some other day.
Well, see, that would be a way to get you back on the show. We didn't finish. We have to.
we've got to have you back on the show, Stanley. This has been fantastic. Quickly, what is next for you?
Well, I'm basically retired, to be perfectly honest, but I do have an article that I'm working on now for a book called Stephen King, Master Storyteller by Stephen Spignesi, who's one of the world's leading Stephen King experts. And it's titled The 13 Stephen King Books You Need If Stuck on a Desert Island.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Anything Stephen King, I'm on board.
Me too.
Yeah. And these are the 13. If you could only take 13 Stephen King books on a desert island, which would they be and why?
Oh, wow.
I like that question. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it would be the thickest ones, because you're going to be there for a while and you just need to read more.
Well, the bad part is one of my favorites is the very thinnest one I've ever. The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I absolutely love that book.
Yeah,
and it's
that was a good
short.
one. Yeah. You could read it in like an hour and a half. That's the problem.
Well, it took me a little longer than that, but
because you're having a nap.
Exactly.
She's having naps between chapters. There you go. Well, I'm afraid it is time now, so we're going to have to say goodbye, Stanley, I'm afraid. We will have you on again very, very shortly, hopefully. Yes?
Yes.
I would love that.
Brilliant.
Wonderful.
It has to come back
brilliant.
now.
It's been brilliant, thank you. So, and I'm afraid it is that time where we say goodnight, Xtina.
Good night, Xtina.
Please Ex-Pat Brit.